A battle royale game rooted in India.
So we started with these two characters. Cultural identity or the relatability is one of the 3-4 pillars.
The hammer is one of the most iconic weapons that we have. Rest of the guns and weapons in the game, it's almost like Desi guns.
A lot of people love our game. There are very high expectations. I'm Ojas, I'm the CEO and the founder here at Mayhem Studios.
Hi, I'm Arpit.
Hi, my name is Vamsi. I head the engineering at Mayhem Studios.
You're watching
Games made in India
on IGN India.
The idea for Mayhem Studios and for this game is seated into the deep culture that India has, the kind of things that India has to offer in terms of entertainment, stories. All of us, the people you see in the office, are big gamers, are big consumers of entertainment product in India and believe that India has a lot of rich and diverse stories to offer. So that's where we thought, well, why not present it in the form of a game? And that's where this idea of Mayhem Studios and UGW has come from. In terms of our vision, so we don't want to just build games for India. We think that India can build games pretty much world class that can compete with any other IP or game out there. So our vision is to eventually make global gaming IPs rooted in India for the world. That's what we are working hard towards. So I think in terms of opportunity and in terms of the market size, India is growing really, really fast. It's a bright spot in the global economy within gaming, and we expect it to become really massive. But the challenge and the opportunity that game developers in India have in front of them is primarily on talent. All these other countries have had practice for around 15-20 years building games like what we're building. We are starting to build now. So that's the primary challenge that I see. Indians taking a little bit of time getting there, but with the raw capacity and the brain power that the country has, it's not a very steep mountain. We should be able to climb it fairly easily. The only key ingredient there that is left is time and patience, which is what we are doing as well, investing into the people, investing into the talent to get to the point where we can make fantastic games.
So initially what we wanted to build was a battle royale game rooted in India. That's what we are even currently building. But on the way, what we realized is that when we say India, India is so diverse. There are so many cultures, so many kind of things in India that how do you represent India? To give you an example, we have a fort in the game. Now to research and figure out how to build the fort, we looked at the Mughal architecture, we looked at the Rajputana architecture, we looked at the Maratha architecture, we looked at the south like Golconda Fort and all those. And we realized that even within forts, there is such a big diversity of how do you show an Indian fort. That the way that we define India became our major thing that we banked on. So now the fort that we made, for example, is a mishmash. You will feel like it has elements of Mughal plus Rajputana plus some of the southern aspects as well. So that's how over time the game evolved. It evolved into this very open world which gives you an immersive feel of being in the countryside and playing a game that is set in something that you've seen before. So at Mayhem, we do things from a very subjective and an objective lens both together. When I say that, what I mean is we look at what's the intuition, what's the feeling behind a decision, but we also look at data at the same time. In this case, a lot of us internally experimented with a lot of themes. We really like this theme which you see now, but we had other themes also in the play. Subjectively, we landed at 2-3 themes, which included some of the very popular ones before this theme. Then we went out to the market and we did user study and we figured out which one the users resonate with most. So internally, as well as using the data from the market research, we landed at this theme. If you think about it, it's pretty obvious now. We have over 7.5 million pre-registrations. People are big fans of Mirzapur, Vasepur, Peaky Blinders, Narcos. It seems like something that is very interesting to people. And especially in the battle royale genre, I feel like this theme is quite well fitting and something that will really attract people even in the long run.
They're loosely based on real life events. They're loosely based on history. We did not want to stick very closely to something that's very historically accurate, because that is not the genre we are in. We are not a role-playing game or something like that. And B, it gives us the liberty to take the story and take the game in any direction. So most of the places that you see in the map have some basis somewhere in India, but they are not exactly the same. Like even the name Dhantara, for example, sounds like a real city, right? But it's not. There is no city called Dhantara other than in UGW. So that's kind of our concept overall as well.
So first of all, cultural identity or the relatability is one of the 3-4 pillars for us. It makes a difference for a user, like when they see certain things in their regular atmosphere and when they experience the same things inside the game as well. So just to give you an example, so a lot of games do catch up on the trending videos, the hottest trends right now, and they replicate that into the game as soon as possible. Whoever is the most popular celebrity comes on to the games very quickly. So it does make sense for a game developer as well to keep bringing the relatability factor into the game. So keeping that aside, that we are already addressing. The second factor, which will also be very, very important, is this country had the Battle Royale FPS game from last 6 to 7 years. And the esports competitive space is getting more and more congested. And it's also not very favorable for the upcoming generation of gamers to make a mark in that industry. So I think bringing a new game which will bring, say, a fresh slate for the gamers will boost the esports industry as well. So that is going to be our second mode. And the third is our core differentiation in the gameplay. It is not just a differentiation in the theme. Right now, what we are testing in the closed beta is a regular battle royale, but we are coming up with a lot of different game modes as well, which are quite unique and different, which are not available in the market. So that will also engage user to, say, give a try to a completely different mode of game, and we'll take it from there. Both the cinematic and the lore video were very important for us to put characters at the center of the storytelling. And this is one of the many differentiations that we have in the game. So we started with these 2 characters and we started with this land called Dhantara, where the game is based on. In order to make affinity for users, we have to create the backstory of these characters. So we went down in narrating how these 2 guys ended up fighting in this spot, where did they originate from, and what is their motive, and what are they doing at this current moment. And that's what the whole lore video and even our cinematic trailer consist of. But that's not all. This story is just telling the current moment at the game. But in future, we will be creating a lot many backstory of this game, as well as what will happen in the future. Even all the new characters that will come, it won't be just random characters with the random names. Everyone will have a role to play in the lore. And it will keep coming out as we move forward, step by step. The lore will keep getting developed, more and more characters will keep popping up, and that's how we are going to take it forward. Yes, in the game, when you are inside the game, it's a pure FPS game. You focus on winning that game. The character progression happens on the meta, on the lobby screen of the game. The lore and everything, the backstory, goes outside the game. It goes on your YouTube and all the other broadcasting channel. It is primarily for user to build affinity towards particular character. Just not choose the character because it's a new character, but also because what is the motivation of that character and do they align with that backstory. So that is the purpose.
So we have been trying to stick to the lore of the game itself and to the world itself. That doesn't mean we will not try these things. It depends on what the feedback from the players is. So we are trying Vanilla Battle Royale right now. We are trying to put it out there and see the feedback from the player community. And based on that feedback, we are actively trying to figure out what makes sense. And if it does make sense for the players, we will do it. Right? There's nothing stopping us, technically speaking. The hammer is one of the most iconic weapons that we have, and the Sterling weapon, Sterling gun as well. So both these are tied to the whole lore and stuff like that. So those are going to be in the game. Rest of the guns and weapons in the game, they will always have this aesthetic of, oh, they've been put together in a hacky way. Because this is not like, oh, we bought it off a military supplier and using it. It's mostly like, oh, we found something, we put it together and we're just using it. It's almost like Desi guns, so to speak. I've not used them, but just saying that that's the vibe essentially. When you look at the weapons, they're very wooden, there's wood, there's cloth wrapped around them. That is how we're tying it to the lore. We are starting with this is the mode that we want to go out with. Like we were like, okay, we'll build a battle royale. It's basically a third-person shooter. If you really zoom out of it, it's a third-person shooter that you can run around, play it, and it feels good, plays well on mobile. That's the baseline. Once we have that, Unreal Engine itself has support for building new game modes and so on, and that there's nothing stopping us from building new types of gameplay elements, PvE, PvP, and so on. We have nailed down the networking side of things for PvP. We should be able to leverage that for our PvEs as well. In terms of pure technology side of things, we have sorted the problems that are needed to be solved for putting any of those modes out there. And based on the community feedback, we will try to figure out what makes sense. So UGW is a typical free-to-play game. It has season passes, and we will have a lot of costumes that are going to be put on sale. Nothing that impacts the gameplay. I strongly believe that anything that lets you pay to win is not a great scenario to be in. So our focus is going to be driving monetization through costumes and customization, and that's going to be fair across the board. And we hope that the community loves our stuff enough to buy it and keep us going in the business. The Indian device market spread is pretty vast. You have a lot of high-end devices and low-end devices. Obviously, the majority is low-end devices, and it's been hard for us to address everyone at the same time. And that is why when we did the closed beta, it was focused on high-end and mid-tier devices, right? So the idea was to provide as best experience as possible for the players, and it was only possible, or we were able to get it to a good state for the high-end and mid-tier devices only. So as we go for the lower-end devices, because there's a wide spectrum and wide variations of the devices, it is almost like targeting a PC market essentially, and it's even more varied than actual PCs itself. So the variants on the RAM, the GPU itself, and the SoC that it's built on, all these kind of create a lot of complexities. But we have actually, like I said, we've been collaborating with external studios and stuff like that. We have built a process of how we get to the optimization part. So we have put together a process in place to help us go through iteratively and keep doing the optimization part. So we are confident that we'll be able to hit the low-end market pretty soon.
I would say you've not seen it yet. We are working on something very incredible. We know that people want to play a battle royale game, but we also know that people want to see something different. So the biggest change is something that we are working on right now that you will see in the coming months.
So first of all, we have taken a very right step from the very beginning, is that we have only opened up our game from 17 to 18 plus. We are not going to cater the game to younger audiences. Even in right now the Play Store where we are listed, it's 17 or 18 plus only. So we don't want to cater to school-going audiences right now, right away. Even for the advanced level of say you can say censorship or moderation, there would be features in the future. But right now, since we are not in that phase, so right now we are just focusing on improving the gameplay. But yes, when we reach that stage, when we are launching and we hit a critical mass, we will be including all those safety features as well.
So in upcoming months, you can expect a lot of interesting new things to come out. Till now, what you've seen is what we have kind of promised to some extent, Indian-rooted battle royale. Now we are working on something in a new interesting dimension. That's all I can say for now. Keep a watch out. We will have our next phase of open beta also in the upcoming months. Keep a watch out on our social channels. And yeah, we'll keep in touch on how that's going and what's interesting cooking.
So there's not one particular funny story, but overall, the most funniest experience that we got in the closed beta that we just did was, it was sort of the first time we let users play on their own devices, we let them record the content and made content on top of it. So the most funniest things came out of the content creators who created the UGC content on YouTube, and they added their own bit of personality, their own traits, on their own style of creating content on the UGW for the very first time, because there are a lot of interesting elements in the game which are not present in other games. So they were able to create new stories, new fun moments, and a lot of fun in the video. And we had spent like hours watching those content and laughed it off. But it was pure fun to watch all the content creators showing so much of interest and creating funny bits on the game throughout the closed beta.
So I think the journey has been very rewarding. The journey has been a story of resilience as well. It takes a while to make games like this. And the third thing I would say is it's bittersweet from a player perspective. So a lot of people love our game. There are very high expectations. We have a huge number of people waiting for the game to come out. They really want to play. There's a sentiment of take our money and go kind of as well. On the other side, the same passion flows into if there is a bug, you know, games like this in beta phase, there are bugs, there are issues, there are things we are still working on and fixing. The sentiment is equally, passionate, I would say. So in that sense, there is still some time left for it to cook. The journey is what we expected it to be. It's an uphill climb, but it's quite rewarding, I think, for us, especially because we are getting so much love every time we do a milestone. So I think how I would like to answer that question is in two ways. Where do I see UGW, and then how do we consider competition? They are two separate things for us internally. So we want UGW to be the most successful game India has ever produced. That's what we want to do. We want to make it successful in the country and then hopefully take it global as well. That's our ambition. We are putting all our energy and passion into making the game that lives up to that. In terms of competition, we believe that competition is great for business. So we look at competition, especially in this segment, which is growing at 40-50% year on year, as something that is absolutely essential to keep us on our toes. If we can take a chunk of the pie, everyone goes because the pie itself is growing. So we look at competition from that sense that anyway, for the first part, the talent building, we need more and more companies to come up, not just us, but other Indian companies, other global companies to come and set up their hubs in India. So we need more competition. And if the industry keeps growing at the rate it's growing, we will have a very good outcome for all of these companies and eventually build the talent pool which is able to build really great companies in the future as well. First thing is like follow what your heart tells you. That's the first thing. Making games is not a science. It's not something that is very easily defined or explained in mathematical terms. So follow your heart, follow your intuition, create a good team. Like when I say follow your heart, it's for which market to choose, what theme to choose, what characters, what's the gameplay mechanic. Second is build a very good team that can help you build the game and help you really figure out how following your heart can be put in execution terms. And the third one is don't go for something that's very, very commonplace. Like don't go for something that everyone else is trying to build. Try to build your own differentiation. Try to build something that's unique. Those three things.
Thanks a lot for watching.
Please subscribe to IGN India.